Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. And it's midnight and we're live and I'm here to talk all about the 2025 Austin Grand Prix. We do not sleep here and we are joined by Minton. If you were here for the post-sprint CHINWAG, you'll know I did promise you Minton, and here he is. He is absolutely shattered. We went on the longest dog walk ever yesterday, and we took him for a little one today, and he's just been absolutely parched, bless him. Hey, ain't ya? Shattered. Absolutely shattered. So I just thought I'd bring him in to say hi, and then I'll send him off to bed, because you can tell he is desperate for a kip, ain't you? Go on, mate. Off you pop. Go on, Sam. There you go. He's earned his rent. That's it. He's done his job. He's earned his rent. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining me. Everyone here live on YouTube. Boom, Bakira, Viol, LH, Kaut, Salma, Gabrielle, Ella, Chiro, Haz, Dean, Loel, Alfie, Algiz, Dean, Finn, and the rest of you. Appreciate you all taking the time for joining me for the 2025 Austin Grand Prix post-race CHINWAG. We've already talked about the sprint. I will briefly cover that, but we did a dedicated post-sprint CHINWAG last night. So if you want to hear more detail about that, then go check that out, because fair to say that the sprint was just a bit more entertaining than this race. There were moments, Lando and Scholl gave us something, but all in all, compared to some of the Austin bangers we get, this one didn't quite hit, if you ask me. But we'll get into race rating. I've already put the poll out on YouTube to get a gist of what you lot think. Race rating out of 10. We've got 3 or lower, 4, 5 and 6 or above as the 4 options, and I feel like that's covered most of your feelings the most right now. 9% of you have given this race a 3 or lower, 27% of you are 4, 36% of you are 5, 28% of you are 6 or above. Remember, the race, right? We've already talked about the sprint, so we're just talking about the race, the Sunday Grand Prix today. That's what you're rating over there. Should we start with mine? Shall we start with mine? Because I've given it a 4, which I think is fair. I do think that's fair. As much as Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc did give us some superb scrapping, some top-tier defensive driving from Charlie Leclerc. Max drove an impeccable weekend, faultless weekend really, and just drove away in the Grand Prix. We didn't get a scrap for the win. We didn't really get a scrap. Obviously, Lewis towards the end almost lost out on his P4 to Oscar Piastri, which would have been very fortunate for the Australian in the end. And we had some shenanigans at the back, but it wasn't a great race. To be honest, I can enjoy certain moments, but a lot of it was pretty boring. A lot of it was pretty dull. A lot of it I've zoned out of. So we're going to cover this Grand Prix. We're going to get through it. We're going to talk all about it. But then this weekend, we go to Mexico. So we've not got long to wait. And, well, typically, does Mexico deliver bangers or clangers? I'm not so sure. I'm going to be optimistic and hope it delivers. I'd love to see it. And Lowell, I had to miss 5 to 45. And when I came back, nothing had changed. Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, you kind of spot on, Lowell. I think you're kind of spot on there. It wasn't the best Grand Prix ever, but we still have plenty to cover. So, let's talk first and foremost qualifying, shall we? Which happened, of course, yesterday. Max Verstappen put it on pole by almost 3/10 and didn't even get to set his second lap, which is kind of mad. GP was like, cheers, Max, for getting me out of jail, because, of course, he kind of takes on that responsibility, I guess, of making sure Max goes out at the right time. They didn't give him quite enough time because of some slow out laps ahead of him. But he didn't need it in the end, because he was still almost 3/10 clear of Lando Norris in P2. And once again, Oscar Piastri not having a good weekend over a lap. Turns out he didn't have a good weekend at all, did Oscar, qualifying P6 with his 2 championship rivals, P1 and P2. Not very good. Charles Leclerc Top lap from Charles in P3, George Russell P4, Lewis Hamilton P5, Kimi Antonelli P7, recovered well after a difficult sprint qualifying. The race wouldn't go so well for him today, spoiler alert. Ollie Behrman, top tier once again. I did predict he'd have a good weekend this time at P8 in qualifying, top 10 in both sprint qualifying and normal qualifying. I believe that is right, isn't it? I'm sure that's right. Carlos Sainz, P9. Fernando Alonso, P10. Those are your top 10. We're not going to talk about Alex Albon in P19, who got his lap time deleted and therefore went out in Q1, which, of course, I was very, very sad about. Both Alpines got into Q2, which is an absolute miracle given how little pace they had in the Grand Prix. Bortoleto as well, big time struggle this weekend. As much as Hulkenberg didn't put it into Q3, like he did put it into SQ3, he was significantly more comfortable in his Sauber than Gabriel Bortoleto was for probably the first time this season, really, clearly. Stroll technically didn't qualify in P18. Well, he took a 5-place grid drop, didn't he, Patrick? So he did, because he got his lap time deleted. He started at the back. Hadjar crashed as well, which is quite uncharacteristic for Isaac Hadjar. But that Racing Bulls did seem to be a little bit skittish, and he got caught out going through the S's, did old Hadjar, and it didn't work out well for him at all. Also, Yuki wasn't happy with Liam Lawson, was he? He was very much like, Liam Lawson's doing this on purpose. He's getting in my way, which I don't think is true. I think Yuki's just annoyed in the heat at the moment. He's looking for someone to blame because it hasn't been great recently. Although, today, pretty good, all things considered. Pretty good. Good morning, Mish, as well. Good morning from Melbourne. Mish, we will talk about your Melbourne boy. Don't you worry. We need to talk about the Melbourne boy because something's not right, is it? Something is up. But yes, that's qualifying for the 2025 Austin Grand Prix, which means we've got some head-to-heads to look at. We didn't look at these yesterday in the post-sprint CHINWAG. I thought I'd save it, look at the sprint quali, look at the normal quali, and then crunch some numbers and then deliver some data and insights into how everyone's stacking up relative to one another this season, over a lap anyway. And here's what we've got after 23 of 30 qualifying sessions, including sprint qualifying this season. These are the gaps. So biggest on average is Max ahead of Tsunoda by 0.671 of a second. That's actually got bigger, that gap, which is kind of mad. Then Alonso ahead of Stroll, 0.328. Russell ahead of Antonelli, 0.288. Leclerc ahead of Hamilton, 0.170. Hadjar ahead of Lawson, 0.165. Gasly ahead of Colapinto, 0.143. Then we get into the sub 10th of a second gap. So Behrman ahead of Ocon, 0.083. Hulkenberg ahead of Bortoleto. This is one of those where it was a bit tricky because in sprint qualifying, Bortoleto didn't set a lap. However, there was a lap that Bortoleto did set when he did track limits, but it was like 2 seconds off Hulkenberg. He was significantly slower than Hulkenberg this weekend across the board. So it's, I think, somewhat fair to include that lap. Look, over the course of the whole season, these individual instances aren't going to make a broad, massive difference, but it did result in a big swing towards Hulkenberg this weekend. I've got to draw the line somewhere, and I'm doing what I can to try and keep things as fair and balanced and equitable as I can. But yes, Hulkenberg now jumps ahead of Bortoleto, still 0.061 of a second, so it's still very, very close. Piastri Norris, that gap's coming down because Oscar is not doing the job over a lap, is he? Whereas Lando, say what you want, I think Lando's racecraft isn't the best. I think there's various factors where he could improve, but Lando's 1 lap pace absolutely is one of his strengths in my mind, and it's only half a tenth now. And then finally, Sainz ahead of Albon, the smallest gap on average over the course of the season. Advantage Vamos, advantage young Carlos Sainz, who isn't actually that young, but he's younger than me, so therefore he is young. Also, yes, I'm seeing a few people in the live chat saying Sainz penalty, which, 5-place grid drop for Mexico for the contact, which I'm not surprised about. I think that one was fair. He didn't get far enough alongside Antonelli to not justify a penalty in my mind. And I think he'll kind of accept that, not happily, but I think he kind of has to put his hands up there and be like, he tried the carbon copy of the move he put on Ollie earlier on in the race, which worked amazingly. But then it's almost like he tried to force that move when it wasn't there, because he did very much catch Ollie napping. But Antonelli wasn't positioned in the same way that Behrman was, and I think he just was, I've done it once, I'm just going to force it and do it again. And it didn't work out that time, which was a shame, because Carlos should have delivered some good points for Williams today, shouldn't he? But yes, those are the quality head-to-heads, and we'll see how they look by the end of the season. Right, so race result then. Spoiler alert. I mean, why are you watching this if you haven't seen how the Grand Prix finished? So Max won, ahead of Lando, ahead of Charles. Charles looked like he might have held on. And then Lando got this extra little bit of, a second wind late on. Great little scrap between the two of them. Gotta say, great little scrap between the two of them. I think, actually, my video that I'll probably put out, tomorrow night if I can, probably more like Tuesday, I think this Grand Prix illustrated why Max and Charles were the two best drivers in Formula 1, in my opinion. And I will make my case in the video, because the way Max just dominated the weekend, the way Charles, in a very difficult, very challenging Ferrari that could barely get out of Q1, SQ1 anyway, can scrap right at the end with Lando in a quicker McLaren, absolutely, undoubtedly, and almost hold on. Charles is a serious driver. And Lewis was cooking this weekend as well. Fair play. Lewis was absolutely cooking. I know it's not been a great season, right, relative to your expectations of what you were thinking Lewis was going to deliver. But all in all, actually, I think Lewis had done a pretty good job. And this was a pretty solid weekend from him. More so in the sprint side of things. But Oscar Piastri P5. What is going on with Oscar? Like, that's a few weekends now where he's just not been. Like, you look at Oscar like earlier on in the season. Like, it's kind of crazy, the swing. Like, 1 in China, 3rd in Japan, 1 in Bahrain, 1 in Saudi, 1 in Miami, 3rd in Imola, 3rd in Monaco, 1 in Spain. Like, an unreal stretch early on. And then still, like, 2nd in Austria, 2nd in Silverstone, 1 in Belgium, 2nd in Hungary, 1 in Zandvoort. Like, what's happened? Retired in Baku, 4th in Singapore, 5th in Austin. Like, part of the quality that Oscar's shown is the fact that he's making himself look like a driver who isn't in his 3rd season. He's making himself look like a driver who's 6-7 years deep and way more experienced. However, now we're starting to see, we're getting to the crunch time of the season, and we're around tracks that, he wasn't particularly strong in the back end of last season either. That combination of factors, I think, is starting to make him look like a bit of a... What is it? For God's sake. You lot in chat need to grow up. It's making him look like the 3rd-year driver that he is, So, but, I mean, from a championship point of view, it is teeing up spectacularly, which is all I want. This is all I dream of. But yes, Piastri P5, not good enough this weekend. He needs to bounce back in Mexico. Russell P6, it's kind of nowhere this weekend. Well, fine in the sprint, very good in the sprint, but nowhere during the race. Tsunoda P7, very good recovery drive. A bit of a sus move on Ollie, got to say. Not great. But at the end of the day, recovered very well. Great lap 1, just like he had an unbelievable lap 1 in the sprint race. Made up like 11 positions or whatever it was. Ridiculousness. Crazy. And well done, Yuki. Good points on the board. 6 points for him. Hulkenberg P8. First point since Silverstone. It's been a very long time since he was on that podium. Behrman P9. Which, I mean, he would have hoped for more. And that near miss with Yuki. But all in all, it's still a couple of points on the board, so he can't really complain too much, can he? And then Fernando Alonso, P10, in an Aston Martin where, he got unlucky in the sprint, didn't he? The tight margins in qualifying, man. So tight in qualifying. Like, Fernando was a couple of tenths quicker and he'd have been like starting P6 or something ridiculous. So Fernando wound out the points, and then Lawson, Stroll, Antonelli, of course, had his contact with Carlos Sainz. Albon had his contact with Bortoleto and had to recover through, and just wasn't able to. He had to make a two-stop work where a lot of cars around him were one-stopping. Ocon, Hadjar. Hadjar just was on the hard tyre at the start. The C1 just wasn't the tyre to be on. Rock hard, the hardest compound available, and it just had no performance. And Colapinto bought out of Gasly. Colapinto was being told to hold position behind Pierre for P17. Like, what? And so he just overtook Pierre and then just drove off a bit, and even Bortoleto got past Pierre. So didn't go well for Gasly this weekend. And then, of course, Carlos Sainz, the contact with Kimi Antonelli ended his Grand Prix. Albon Loki had a stinker. Jawad, it was a bit of a high key stinker, to be honest. Like, Alex had a margin to play with. In fact, Alex's Q1 lap was quicker than Carlos's by like a tenth, but he did track limits. So he had margin and didn't use it, didn't work into that margin, and made a mistake and did track limits. He said post qualifying actually that that's changed the setup of the car and it felt very different, blah blah blah. But like, it's still not good enough. Still not good enough, to be honest. Like, Williams not getting any points from this Grand Prix is kind of mad. Kind of mad when you really think about it. But right, okay, those are the race results. Lovely jubbly. These are the driver standings then. What are we looking at? Wow. 14 points, Piastri to Norris. 40 points, Piastri to Verstappen. 5 Grand Prix left, 2 sprint races. I'm not even going to bother polling you lot. Like, can Max do it? Absolutely yes. Now, I think it was always a bit of a far-fetched, stretch. And then this weekend's played out perfectly for Max, hasn't it? You've got the double McLaren DNF in the sprint and him winning. And then the lead McLaren having a P5 stinker. Norris still not even winning the race because Max gets that 7 points on Norris by winning it. Come on. Like, wow. Everything's played in now. We're right now, it is absolutely on. Absolutely on. I might as well poll you lot. I've done this before, so we'll drop another poll. I'm interested to see how many of you. What the hell's going on with my keyboard? Does my keyboard run out of battery? Well, that's annoying. So I have to lean over here because I've got dual keyboard on my laptop and then separate keyboard, but it's run out of battery, which is fantastic. Who's winning the title? Keep it simple. And this keyboard's a lot quieter as well. So is it Pia for Piastri? Is it Nor for Norris? Or is it Ver for Verstappen? Who's winning the title? Obviously, points favour Piastri. Momentum favours Verstappen and Norris to less of an extent, but certainly, Lando's driving at a higher level than Piastri right now, and has been for the last few weekends. So yeah, who's winning it? 56%. 56? That's definitely not what that number is. 56% of you of saying Verstappen. 57%. 56. It keeps going between the two. And then 22% Piastri, 21% Norris. Jeez. Yeah, look, it doesn't feel like a pipe dream now, It actually, this is the first time now I think you can absolutely categorically say, like, it's not a long shot anymore. Like, it's not, because again, this weekend has played so much into Max's hands. And the following, they're not all going to go this way, right? There's going to be weekends where one or both of the McLarens finish ahead of Max. I'm very sure of that. But it's just everything played into Max's favour, relatively speaking, this weekend. Can he keep it up? He can only control his controllables. He's great around Mexico. He's great around Brazil. And he should be good around Qatar. the McLaren tyre preservation thing doesn't seem to be such a thing anymore. Maybe not. But yeah, I think just the presence of Max and knowing that he can do it and is there is going to surely play in Lando and Oscar's minds. Surely that's going to play in Lando and Oscar's minds. 59% of you now. Wow. Of 600 you have voted. Thank you for voting. Thank you for getting involved. Thank you for liking the stream. I'm sure you've liked it already, but just double check you've liked the stream. Much appreciated. Crazy. This is exactly what this championship needed. This like McLaren just honestly pretty pathetic approach where they're trying to be all, we're going to do it in this fair way that's never been done before, but we're going to be able to do it because we're da-da-da. Like, shut up, right? Now, go for it. Although, what I will say, I'm seeing a lot of people say, oh, no, McLaren have got to now make a choice to prioritise one of their drivers, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't think that, I don't think they're going to do that at any point. I don't think there's a single point for the rest of the year where McLaren out and out are like, right, we're prioritising one driver for the Drivers' Championship. I think McLaren, based off all of their action, not just their words, but their action so far, would actually rather Max come through and win it, but be fair and equitable to both of their drivers, than prioritise one of their drivers and one of their drivers win the Drivers' Championship. They've already won the Constructors, but I just think that's the way McLaren are going to do it. And I don't want them interfering. I don't want them prioritising one driver or the other, because I just want to see this go to the final race of the season. Oh my God, it would be so sick if Max is able to be a factor in Abu Dhabi. That's all we need. We need 3 drivers to be mathematically able to win the championship in Abu Dhabi. Yes, please. Come on. I'm talking rubbish. Maybe I am, Andrew. Maybe I am. But that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for, Andrew. That is what I'm here for. Who would they even favour? Exactly. Who, like, it's too close. And Rachel Brooks asked Oscar that after, and he was like, "It's too close. Like, why would they favour either of us? Just silly. Just very, very, very foolish." Look, I'm still hoping for a last minute, mathematically impossible Alex Albon title push, but maybe next year. Maybe next year. We'll see. Oscar will do well in Mexico. I hope you will. Internet Anarchist, and I hope you're right. Because he needs a good weekend. It's kind of sad to see him struggle as much as he has been these last few weekends. So, those are the driver standings as they are currently, and here are the team standings. This battle for second is actually kind of, it's not one that keeps me up at night. Like, oh my God, I'm so excited about the idea of Ferrari finishing second or whatever. That's not what butters my bread. But 341 for Mercedes, 334 for Ferrari, 331 for Red Bull Racing. And Yuki getting points, kind of important here. Yuki holding up his end of the bargain, getting points in P7, better than Antonelli. The Ferraris, they're pretty close. Like Charles and Lewis are both able to extract performance, or both equally struggling with this Ferrari, seemingly at the kind of same time. But yeah, like with Max pumping in some wins, Red Bull getting second in the Constructors absolutely could be on. Absolutely could get on. Lydia, can we get some bangers and clangers? I'm tired, mate. You think you're tired, Lydia? You think you're tired? Seeing these bags under these eyes. Jesus. We won't be long, don't you worry, because there's no junior formula to talk about this weekend either. But yeah, they're the team standings. McLaren have already got it done. As for the chasing pack, well, Racing Bulls and Aston Martin probably scrapping over P6, aren't they? And then Sauber Haas scrapping over P8. But Hulkenberg points this weekend was important because I was confident Ollie was going to put some points on the board this time out. Science has a five place grid penalty. He does indeed. Thank you everyone in chat for confirming that. He does have a 5-place grid drop for being a very naughty boy. Right, so no F2 or F3 or F1 Academy this weekend, just Porsches doing their thing. So let's reflect on our predictions, shall we? starting off with my bangers and clangers, which in itself kind of clanged this weekend. So race winner Oscar Piastri, no. Banger drive Ollie Behrman, I'm giving myself half a point for that, because double Q3 points on Sunday today, kind of, he was pretty unlucky. I say he was unlucky with that one in the sprint race, in my opinion. So I'm giving myself half a point. Clanger drive Pierre Gasly, maybe worth a full point. Some of you are saying full point. The Alpine is rubbish, so it feels harsh. And I feel like there were other drivers who clanged more. Like Stroll literally harpooned Ocon. But I'm giving myself half a point. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. Haas banger team, no. Ferrari clanger team, no. Because I'll give you this one. You absolutely demolished me this weekend. Max race winner, well done. Banger drive Max, well done. Clanger drive Lando, no. It wasn't a clanger, absolutely not. P2, of course it wasn't. Banger team Ferrari, yeah. Clanger team Alpine, yeah. Yeah, is it a rare chat W though, the Wood? Like, I wouldn't say it's rare. So as much as, you know, we can argue about Pierre half a point or four, it doesn't matter because you won. So just be happy with yourselves and let's move on to the actual bangers and clangers, shall we? For the 2025 Austin Grand Prix, the US Grand Prix in Texas, who banged, who clanged? Starting with mine, as much as there were many very, very strong performances this weekend, I think Charles Leclerc deserves a lot of credit for the delivery of performance on Sunday and the qualifying lap as well that he put in to put it P3. It's obviously Max. Like, it's obviously Max banger driver. Of course, shock horror has to be Max Verstappen banger. It was a perfect weekend to do that quali lap with only one shot at it as well, and then just show how you take Austin turn 1 and make sure no one gets a sniff, you know, and then just drive into the distance, just manage the tyre, and boom, happy days. Would it have been different if Charles Leclerc wasn't holding up Lando Norris and they weren't scrapping? Maybe, and we never got to see. But in the end, Max did what he had to do and delivered a simply lovely P1 racing stats. I need to do some digging if this might be the biggest comeback in terms of points if it happens. Because wasn't Max like 104 points back after like Zandvoort? And he was still like 90 points back after Hungary? And Hungary was like round 14 or something, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't even that long ago that Max was like almost triple digits away. And now it's 40 points off. Like, it's mad. It's actually mad. But yeah, Max, banger driver, has to be. Like, one of his most complete weekends. You got to say. Like, what more could he have done over the course of the entire weekend? You know, it's crazy. So Max gets banger drive for me. But what about you? Well, 955 of you voted. Thank you to everyone who voted. If you did miss the poll, make sure you subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel so you will see me post the poll in my community tab or on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey. You will see me posting the poll on there and on here on YouTube, and you can get involved. So, 955 of you voted. Your banger driver this weekend was Max. Shock. Of course it was. 49% of you went Max Verstappen. Verstappen? Who's that? Who is Max Verstappen? 38% of you went Charles Leclerc. Shout out. Love that. 4% of you Yuki Tsunoda. As a Yuki coin investor, as a Yuki coin hodler, right? I'm not letting go of it. I like it. I rate it. 3% Lando Norris. I mean, it was a good scrap. It was a good scrap. He gave us entertainment, so fair enough. No, fair enough. No Grand Slam. Kimi had the fastest lap. Did he now? Right, so Max Verstappen, banger driver. Max and Charles basically dominated the vote this weekend. Clanger driver, for me, in the context of the championship, it has to be Oscar Piastri. Like, oh man, like, no pace. No pace over a lap, and no pace in the race either. And just seemingly a bit lost for words. I think, Bortoleto even himself said, post-race, he was, a bit of a loss as to why he wasn't performing, but he's a rookie. Oscar is in his third season. He's not a super mature, been in the sport for ages driver, but he's still in his third season. And yeah, just Oscar's pace was nowhere. In the context of the championship, it's not good. And look, at the end of the day, yes, Gladiator Night, Sainz did crash into someone and get a 5-second penalty, end his own race, granted. But Sainz is in a position where, YOLO, just go for those moves. Oscar just didn't have the pace, and that's scary. Because if it's a mistake, and again, I say it again about the sprint race incident, for me, Oscar's making that cutback because he knows that Hulkenberg should have space on his inside, and therefore he can. But it's turn 1 at Austin, and that is a risk, and Alonso was up the inside of Hulk, so Hulk had nowhere to go. But, I mean, that's a racing incident as far as I'm concerned, and that's annoying. You lose out points. That's one thing. But to just be slow, to just not have the pace, over qualifying, all the race distance, that's worrying. That's really worrying from a championship point of view. And that's why, for me, he has to be clanger this weekend. Has to be clanger. And yeah, Carlos was P3 in the sprint. So yeah, he recovers a little bit of stock for that one. So Oscar's my clanger. Your clanger is also Oscar. 50% of the vote. 21% Carlos Sainz. Again, crashed into someone, ended his own race. Granted, that's valid. 5% Bortoleto. Yeah, I mean, bad qualies on both days. And just nowhere near Hulkenberg. So fair. Hadjar 5% as well. Obviously crashing in qualifying hurt him a lot. I feel like Hadjar could have delivered points this weekend. I think he was quick enough to deliver points this weekend, but did not. So there you go. Same. We've both gone the same for Banger and Clanger this weekend. Banger team, I've gone Red Bull Racing. Why? Because they're delivering Max a car, which, after Zandvoort, he was like, I'm not going to win a single race this season. And they've been able to deliver a car around a hot Austin that he can beat both McLarens in. And also, Yuki actually delivering some decent race pace. Much slower than Max, of course, but we've come to understand that's what it is. So 31 points in the Constructors today for Red Bull Racing. It's between them and Ferrari. As much as Ferrari turned it around, they didn't have a good sprint weekend, which I do factor in somewhat in the bangers and clangers. Not so much the race rating. I need to kind of find a way of communicating that more clearly. Next year, perhaps I will. But yeah, I think Red Bull edge it as far as I'm concerned. Most point in the weekend from all teams. Yeah, there you go. Racing stats. There you go. So, as much as Ferrari can definitely justify Ferrari, I'm going Red Bull for banger team. And you've gone Ferrari banger team. 68%, 31% Red Bull. No one else got any votes. Does it add up to 100? You tell me. You tell me if that adds up to 100, everyone. In chat, go on. Do it. Do it. You know you want to. Ian and Thomas got the memo. And then finally, Clanger team this weekend. I mean, it's very easy, really, isn't it? It's Alpine. I've said Alpine, and so have you. 53% of you said Alpine. 20% Williams. But realistically, it's more their drivers who have clanged than the team, whereas Alpine have given their drivers a terrible car. Williams actually gave their drivers a very good car, which Carlos Sainz delivered on in the sprint race. But Alex got his lap deleted in qualifying, and then Sainz harpooned Antonelli in the race. So that's nothing the teams can do about that, is it? That's driver error. Driver error. So, 20% Williams, 14% McLaren. Yeah, I mean, obviously McLaren have to take some responsibility as to why they weren't able to get Oscar in a place where he could be comfortable in the car. but Lando could be comfortable in the car. But also, that's driver as well. I think that's where maybe Lando's more experience enabled him to set his car up in a more comfortable window today versus Oscar, who couldn't do that because both cars got 0 running on Saturday in the race, right? Because they both crashed early doors. So, yeah, not very good. And then Racing Bull, 6%. Fair enough, not a good weekend for them. So, upon reflection, what we're looking at, bangers and clangers, these are the totals over the course of the year. So most banger drivers for me is Verstappen over the course of the year. Most clangers is Lawson. Most bangers is Mercedes. And most clangers is Ferrari, Williams and Alpine combined over the course of the year from my point of view. And then from your point of view, your most bangers is Verstappen, clangers Lawson, bangers McLaren and Mercedes, and then clangers Ferrari for you lot. So same drivers, but different teams. So just keeping tally over the course of the year. We'll see how that turns up by the end of it. Boom. Lovely jubbly. Right. Should we go team by team, shall we? Once I've checked on the old super chats. Thank you, Mr. Hoppy. We're heading towards a 3-way championship battle in Abu Dhabi. I can feel it. Mr. Hoppy, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Thank you, Dean, as well, for the super chat. Appreciate it, Dean Abbott. Thank you very much. Thank you, Denver, as well. Franco saw your video on him and proved your point. If you haven't watched it, check it out after this live stream. Me talking about how Franco Colapinto has been way closer to Pierre Gasly than most people giving him credit for. I think he deserves a little shout out. Well done, Franco. I'm excited to see the vibes when we go to Interlagos. Because, of course, Bortoletto is going to rightly get a lot of support, as he should in his home country. But, you know, home away from home for Franco. It was essentially his closest he got to a home Grand Prix last year when he was filling in at Williams. So that'd be vibes. Good to see. And thank you, Stefan, as well, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Max is now about the same percentage for the championship as Oscar in betting markets. Before the summer break, he was at 0.3%. Market now has him at 34. Someone must have put a bag on that. Like when Max, after Zandvoort, when he was like, no, I'm not going to win another race this season. Someone must have put a speculative like tenner on it. Surely. And they will be quids in if he does it, which is still not guaranteed. Far from guaranteed. But he's got a very, very good chance now, hasn't he? Very, very good chance. I'm going to keep that poll up, by the way, who's winning the title. Currently, 1,371 of you have voted. 18% of you have gone Piastri, 19% Norris, 63% of you think Max. Like, he's got a chance, but wow. 2 in 3 of you think, almost 2 in 3 of you think he's actually going to win this. Crazy. Crazy. Right, okay, team by team. Let's tick them all off. Let's start with Red Bull. Yeah, I mean, look, whatever they've changed, and we know there's been various tweaks to the RB21 over the course of not even the whole year, just the last kind of 6, 7, 8 weekends. Various floor changes and front wing adjustments, small. And we're getting at the part of the year where we're at the end of a regulation cycle. And obviously a lot of resources going into 2026. So they're not going to be bringing big updates. It's about refining these cars. And turns out that a few refinements for the Red Bull have been enough, with Max piloting the car, who is the best driver in F1, undoubtedly, to be a factor in this championship. It is kind of mad. And just the execution at Red Bull has been very, very solid. From Max's point of view, look, we know the second driver situation at Red Bull. We've gone over that time and time again, and that's why I don't think it makes sense, in my opinion. As much as I am, I'm a Yuki Coin investor. That to one side, I still don't think it makes sense to change that lineup going into next year because it's not worked doing it before. And Yuki was looking great in the junior team and has come into the Red Bull racing car and not really done any better a job than Lawson was doing. We didn't get enough of a sample of Lawson. I think it would have been pretty much the same in my opinion. And you go back to Checo, and obviously his experience helped, but it still wasn't great. So, stem the flow as far as I'm concerned. Keep Yuki in the seat alongside Max next year. Give Lindblad another year. That's what I'd do. I'll give him another year in F2. What's the rush, But regardless, this year, if Max can pull this off, it will be his most impressive. I mean, the 21's always going to be impressive, and I'm not going to get bogged down in talking about Abu Dhabi, because in the totality of the season, as much as he did drive way over the line at times, his good days were incredible. Can he really do it? 40 points is still a lot of points. With Oscar, if Oscar keeps trending the way he is, then Max has got a great chance. Of course he has. And I would, I would bet on Verstappen over Norris any day of the week. 26 points between those two. So, yeah, I think, you know what? Bring it on. Game on. Make it happen. To the line. And Yuki, if Yuki can keep bringing points in, and it wasn't it's still not good over a lap. That's the problem, I think. It's still not good over a lap relative to Max. Average 0.671 of a second is way too big a gap. And that's a bigger, I'm sure that's a bigger average than it was Gasly Verstappen, than it was Albon Verstappen, than it was Perez Verstappen. I'm sure that's a bigger average. But if you can deliver points, then it's not the end of the world. So we'll see. I hope Yuki finds a way to turn it around. I hope he keeps the seat for next year. And I hope that Max can be within this title fight in Abu Dhabi. And then may the best man win, I suppose. May the best man win. You lot in chat, too easy to bait. Aston Martin, well, obviously after Lance's just shenanigans on in the sprint race, it was actually a pretty calm Grand Prix. Alonso finished where he started. He qualified 10th and finished 10th, didn't he? Stroll made a bit of progress, obviously starting at the back with his 5-place grid drop, but nothing massively to write home about. Aston Martin, potentially very good, and peaked at the sprint race. Didn't really deliver much. The livery was kind of decent, Luke. Yeah, I agree. The livery was kind of cool. But other than that, not much to say. Lance did chuck another dive bomb, didn't he? Up the inside of, I want to say, who was it? Who was it did the dive bomb? Was it Lawson he did it on? He finished behind Lawson, but I'm sure it was Lawson he did the dive bomb. But it actually worked. So well done, Lance. He learned from his mistake. He redid it, and he pulled it off. So fair play. Fair play. You kept Lawson behind for half the race. There you go. So, but yeah, not a huge amount to comment on Aston Martin, to be honest. And the race suits were cool as well. The race suits were very cool. I liked it. Mercedes, again, George great in the sprint, but as for today, Antonelli was running P7 when he got spun out by Sainz. And George just had a very quiet race. He was kind of knocking on the door a couple of times with Oscar, but never close, never within DRS of Oscar. George has those races where, and again, I can't put that on George. It's that the car just wasn't able to give him anything. The Ferrari was the better car today, but you got to say, yesterday at the sprint, probably the Mercedes was better than the Ferrari in those kind of conditions. Mercedes, when the sun is out, not good. Yeah, it just very, very little to say. Yesterday for George was a bit of the classic, does nothing, finishes P2. Today was does nothing, finishes P6. So, but we'll see in Vegas. I've still got my hopes. Maybe that Antonelli win in Vegas. I might just predict that, I might just give that a little prediction. Maybe. We'll see. Williams, again, should have had a lot more. That unbelievable livery. So sick. Absolutely love the way that car looked this weekend. Not just because it's a throwback to a mid-2000s Williams, old JPM's mid-2000 Williams. It just looked great. With a bit of white on the car, it just adds a bit more contrast, brings it all together. Very identifiable. Lovely. Want to see more of that? Please integrate that into your actual livery, Williams. I always add white to my Williams livery redesigns because I think it makes it look better. And that's basically everything Williams could be excited about today. Obviously, great for Sainz yesterday in the sprint, but yeah, just like honestly, Alex has not been great as of recent. In qualifying, it's been quite convincingly biased towards Sainz, and the only reason the head-to-head isn't looking worse is because Alex got a lot of dubs on Carlos early on in the year. Yeah, it's not been great. Like, you can't be getting your lap deleted, Alex, when you've not got a banker and you're in Q1 and you've got time in hand. I was really disappointed, to be honest, that he did that, because I was like, bro, you don't need to be pushing those margins. And yeah, Sainz, again, I said it before, I say it again, he did the move early on in Behrman, so he just forced it too much. And he does have a clumsy overtake on him, Sainz, doesn't he? It's not the first time. I do think that is maybe a slight weakness of Carlos's. I think his racecraft is the best. I'll say that. It's all relatively speaking, of course. But yeah, not his strongest suit. However, it's still a very strong driver lineup. Going into next year, should be in a good place, hopefully at Williams. But a weekend to forget, because the car definitely had pace. Definitely had pace. 100%. Thank you, Dean, as well, for the super chat. Fans appreciating Max and not booing him is great. The thing is, the dynamic's all different, right? The dynamic is all different. When you're watching this championship from a neutral point of view, where, you know, the driver I want to see win the championship is the driver that deserves it the most. I would also like to see a new driver win it, and then that does bias me towards the McLaren too. But the way Max is going about it, if he comes through from downtown and dunks it on both of them and wins this title, then that's going to be absolute gas, and like any fan can get behind that, because that would be incredible. That would be one of the sport's greatest comebacks without any shadow of a doubt, because we gave him zero chance. And now he does actually have a genuine, legitimate chance. But yes, Williams, not good enough. And talking of not good enough, well, Oscar, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not really going to talk about... I do want to do my Verstappen-Leclerc video, I think, this weekend. Or tomorrow, should I say. Yeah, I don't... What do we think? Like, what... Is this just Oscar second-guessing himself? Like, to again, just not be on pace. Like, to make mistakes is one thing, but to just be slow. Like, in pretty much every quali session, he just wasn't there. And then in the race, he's just not there. You know? You don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, but could this... I mean, has Baku, like... Baku was bad, right? And it was a big mistake. Obviously, jump start and then crashes into the wall. But it's like, that's a mistake. This feels like it's the first week. He was just slow. And again, maybe it's the lack of time with the car because of, you know, FP1 sprint weekends, not getting that sprint race, not getting that mileage, and then not having the experience to get the car in a comfortable place for himself. Perhaps that's it. And this was a difficult place to overtake, you know, even if Oscar had been able to close up to Lewis quicker than he did in the end. And that was obviously only because of Lewis's issue. So, that's what concerns me. That's what concerns me as a Oscar enjoyer. I want to see him do well, and him just being flat out off the pace. I mean, it happens. It happens to most drivers. They just have weekends where they're just bad. But it's just the fact we've had 3 weekends back to back to back towards the tail end of the season. Yes, he is still leading the championship, but that gap's getting closer. It's getting closer. He needs a good weekend in Mexico. That's all I'll say. But yeah, I think Lando's bounced back and recovered actually really well. Like, Lando was the one who was having a bit of a difficult start to the year. And then Lando, obviously, 1 in Austria, 1 in Silverstone, 2nd in Belgium, 1 in Hungary. Zandvoort, don't need to talk about that. Monza 2nd, Baku, difficult, of course. Singapore 3rd, Austin 2nd. So, I mean, he's been, I think he has bounced back well. Lando is stronger over a lap than Oscar, and this is a bit of a quali championship. Wheel to wheel, I would still put Oscar over Lando, and I would also put Verstappen over both of them. So it's like, McLaren have gone about this championship the way they have. They've tried to be fair and equitable and all that. At the end of the day, I think you're just getting to a point now where you would inspire more trust and confidence in your drivers if you just said to both of them, look, just go at it. Don't crash into each other, fine, but beyond that, pit stops, any of that stuff, we're not going to interfere. Just do your thing, Just do your thing. Because, as you say, your question, Gav, if McLaren has to prioritise one driver to win against Max, who should it be? I don't think they'll do that. And I don't think they should. If McLaren are really going to stick to these principles of, like, what matters to us most is the team championship and the team and the team and the team. They've already won the team championship. So now it's just about giving both drivers equal opportunity to the end of the year to win it. And if Max comes through and snags it from both of them, then they can just be like, well, you boys didn't win it. We gave you the opportunity. We gave you the car, and you two took points off each other and didn't deliver it. And I think that's the way they will go about it. And that's the way I want to see them go about it as a fan, because I don't want them to get involved. I want them to just leave them to it, and then whoever wins. And I just don't think that, and even then it's way too close. 14 points is nothing. Like, it's way too close for the team to start being like, oh, coming in and putting priority in one driver or the other. No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and I don't think it should happen. I don't think it will happen. I just don't think it will happen. But yeah, not much more to say on the Papayans, to be honest. Not much more to say. Do you think the internal team politics is affecting Oscar the most? No. To be honest, no. I don't. I just, The thing is we have to understand as fans, it's like we're hearing all these team radios, but like it's literally like if you mic'd up footballers, if you mic'd up, like when you hear tennis players, right? Because tennis players, you hear them ranting and shouting all the time because they're in a bowl that just echoes, and their voice, you can hear it for the world to hear, right? And you hear them say stuff all the time. And it's like if we mic'd up footballers, you would hear the craziest stuff. And it's like you're in super high. So we are all guilty of it. What I'm saying is, as fans, we are all guilty of holding these drivers to too high a standard, in my opinion, given the context they're in versus us sitting there on our phones, watching the telly, dragging them for what they're complaining about. And I'm not going to, because I think that's just I think that's a broad thing, right? And we should all give a bit more benefit of doubt to the drivers, whether they're moaning, whether they're raging, whatever they're doing, whatever they got the ump about, So, and in this instance, Oscar moaning about the team orders, not agreeing with it, all that kind of stuff. Like, of course he's going to have a moan about it. He's fighting for a world championship. Like, of course you need to back yourself and fight your corner. Like, that's your job as a driver, not only to drive but also to back yourself. So, gloves are off, as far as I'm concerned. Gloves are off. Anyway, Racing Bulls. Yeah, just what Hadjar caught the bumps a couple of times, didn't he, through the S's. Don't know whether the car was just set up a bit too stiff. He caught him out and then had the hard tyres through the race. Lawson was quick enough, but not quick enough to get into the points. A pretty nothing weekend from the Bulls that race. Don't really have anything else to say on them, to be honest. Haas brought their upgrade this weekend, and obviously Ocon struggled more with it than Behrman. I think that's fair to say. I think Behrman definitely, without a doubt, had the stronger weekend. Obviously, Ocon's weekend wasn't helped by the harpooning from Stroll in the sprint race, but I think all in all, he did a pretty solid job. Clanger livery, do you reckon, Matthew? You didn't like the Haas? Or are you talking about the Racing Bulls? I think you're talking about Racing Bulls. It was a bit much. Also, and I saw someone post about this on Twitter. Was it after the sprint race or sprint quali? Whoever at Racing Bulls decided to put Hadjar in that tortoiseshell t-shirt with the denim hat, you need to answer for your crimes, because that was just the most appalling combination I've ever seen in my life. Even worse than green backwards cap hat and TOMMO'S Racing Good t-shirt. Classic piece. Classic piece. Can't be bought anymore. If you got it, well done. If you didn't, they've all gone. Literally, I've got two that I wear on rotation quite often. But the rest of them are all gone. Anyway, Haas delivered delivery. Sure, delivery was kind of cool. The points, not enough. Unfortunately, Sauber scored points as well, so didn't really massively help their P8 ambitions at Haas, did it? Not great. Ferrari, good. Much better than the sprint. I think Lewis and Charles scrapping as well. Very nice. Very, very good. Very much enjoyed that. We've seen them scrap a few times now, and it's always been fair, I think. They've always given each other enough room, unless I'm missing a very obvious example when that wasn't the case. But all in all, I very much enjoyed Charles and Lewis giving each other space, racing proper, hard but fair, nice, good to see. Lewis didn't quite have the pace on that second stint, did he? And Charles just, doing Chuck de Klerk, doing some God's work for his compatriot in the lead, Max, almost holding off Lando, almost keeping Lando in P3. Lando got him in the end, did he, on Charles? But that was some lovely defending from Charles Leclerc against Lando Norris. We saw some lovely defending from Max Verstappen against Lando Norris last year, didn't we? Until the corner where they both went wide, and then it all got a bit messy. But up until that point, it was very good. I think good Sunday for both Ferrari drivers is fair to say. And Charles Leclerc versus Max Verstappen versus George Russell versus Fernando Alonso title fight is really what I want to see. That's kind of really what I want to see, let's be honest. But yeah, well done Ferrari. You turned it around somewhat. However, it's still all in all been very disappointing this year. And you shouldn't have a car that's so peaky that you can go from barely getting out of Q2 on a sprint qualifying to almost finishing second in the Sunday race. Like that level of swing, that's a big part of the problem for Ferrari. Big part of the problem. Well, talking of problems, I mean, I don't know what to say. They're just slow. They both got in Q2, so that's something, I suppose. And again, Colapinto was right up there with Gasly this weekend. One lap pace. He was a bit off in normal quali, but out-qualified Pierre in the sprint quali. And I think Franco is absolutely doing enough to keep that seat for next year. It's very hard at a back team to really showcase what you're doing, but if you look hard enough, you can see that there is the performance there from Colapinto. He absolutely, I think, merits to be there next season. So, and great little move on Pierre Gasly as well, even though the team were like, no, hold position. Like, what, for P17? Are you mad? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Behave yourselves, Alpine. What are you talking about? Hold position. Because managing to finish behind Bortoleto. That's what Pierre Gasly managed to do. No, fair play to Franco. Did well. Gasly didn't do great, but all in all, it's just Alpine in there nowhere. And then finally Sauber. Tale of two halves again. Bortolao, he said it post-race, most difficult weekend of the season for him in his rookie season. Just wasn't at the races, was he? Just didn't have the performance, didn't have the one-lap pace, didn't seem to have the race pace either relative to Nico Hülkenberg. Sometimes, some tracks, it's that experience that pays dividends, and it feels like Austin perhaps was one of those tracks. The drivers with experience seemed to do well relative to their teammates who did not have so much experience. We'll see. Audi next year, still think Bortolao is a top talent, and hopefully this is a one-off weekend for him in the same way that it was a one-off weekend for Oscar. We will see. We will see. But yeah, well done, Nico. It's good to see him back at the top in the points. Unfortunate, of course, in the sprint race, in that incident with Oscar and Fernando. But all in all, he can be happy with his weekend. He can be very happy with his weekend. All the rookies except Behrman out of the points. Ollie doing God's work. What can I say? Ollie doing God's work. Right. I think we're about done. Is there anything I've missed? Chat? Is everyone who's live on YouTube, is there anything I've missed? I think we've covered off everything. And back to the who's winning the title poll now. 1,957 of you have voted. And percentages haven't really changed much. 18% of you Piastri, 19% of you Norris, so slightly more of you think Norris is going to win the title now. 63% of you think Max Verstappen. 63. Crazy. Tomo, who finishes P2 in the Constructors? Ferrari, Mercedes, or Red Bull? Well, obviously Max is going to have the bit between his teeth now, isn't he? And if Red Bull can just get... I'm going to say... And it's more to do with Max picking up wins and that 7-point swing between P1, P2. I'm going to say Red Bull, actually. I'm going to say Red Bull gets second. That's my take on that one. Tomo, your take on Horner to Ferrari rumours, Pranav? I think that is... Look, in the same way that drivers often say it's their job to analyse every opportunity and speak with all teams and understand all opportunities that are potentially available to them. You know, do I think Ferrari and Horner have had words and spoken? Probably. Do I think they should be having words and speaking? Yes. But do I think he will actually go to Ferrari and usurp Fred Vasseur? Do I think that's the right choice for both parties? I do not. I think Christian is going to surely want skin in the game wherever he goes, and he's not going to get that at Ferrari, so that will never happen. That's ultimately what I think. But do I reckon the conversations have happened? Yeah, probably. I do think will have sussed each other out and you know, checked each other out, you know, and analysed and thought, yeah, maybe we can make this work. But in reality, I don't think that's going to work at all. Not at all. Anything else? It all depends on Antonelli for P2. Yeah, that's fair. It does all depend on Antonelli. You know what? Patrick Reed. I'm sure the live goal for Patrick Reed. I hope you're repping, right? I have already watched some of the Bathurst highlights. Not the full thing. Just bits and bobs. The bits and bobs I saw were unbelievable. So I do need to properly actually sit down and check out the highlight package. Absolutely, I do need to do that. Well, anything else? I think we've kind of covered it, haven't we? I think we've kind of covered it. Right, so I'm going to wrap it because it is 5 minutes past 1 in the morning, and I need to also upload this to Spotify, which is going to take a bit of time. So then I'm going to bed, and then I'm going to work on a video, which I think I'm going to talk about how Austin demonstrated why Verstappen and Leclerc are the two best drivers in F1, in my opinion. Because I think that's kind of an interesting video, and I want to talk a bit about Charles, and I want to talk a bit about Max, and I want to talk a bit about them two. So check it out tomorrow. Probably Tuesday it will actually come out, to be honest. Probably Tuesday that will be out. And then Wednesday, pre-race CHINWAG for the 2025 Mexico City Grand Prix. So make sure you subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel and follow me on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey and Instagram at Tommo McCluskey. And you can get involved in the polls, the pre-race poll for Mexico. So I wonder who you're going to... I bet you predict Max to win. That's what I reckon you're going to predict. So we'll see. We'll see. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for watching. 63% of you think Max is going to win the title, which is kind of crazy. Thank you, Hop Hayes, Dawood, Mish, Kira, Zanny, Pranav, Zeke, Simon, Martin, General Dragon, Christopher, Kelly, Ajinkya, Yash, Rainer, Yard Animal, Zanny, Mish, Cody, Freebird, Thomas, Kane. See you, Kane. Hope you're well. Ali, Zeke, Finn, Algiz, Louise, Lydia, AMC, Xavier, Deciphered Matrix, Roman, 9 Volts, Rome, Pedro, Patrick Reed, Chase, Freya, Connor, and the rest of you. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.